This is Pet Life Radio. Let's talk pets.
Is your pet stressed out? Does your pet need annual vaccines? Which pet is best for a child? Would you know if your dog was in pain? Pet Life Radio presents The Pet Doctor, where you'll learn everything about keeping your pet healthy and happy. From pet care, pet meds and grooming, to pet food, pet insurance, and dental care, this is the place to find out everything there is to know about pet wellness. Whether you have a dog, cat, reptile, or rabbit, you'll find answers for your pets straight from the vets, because it's your pet. Health matters. Please welcome your Pet Doctor host, veterinarian media consultant and veterinarian, Dr. Bernadine Cruz.
I used to love wearing spiky high heels, and I didn't think anything about tracking around town on these fashion statements. But after a few close calls where I almost slipped on slick flooring, I'm now extremely leery. Our pets sometimes feel the same way. I know, Labradoodles rarely wear Manolo Blahniks, but sometimes pets need a little assistance in being more sure-footed. You've probably seen those crazy YouTube videos of pets sporting booties. They don't look very happy. So, what's a pet owner to do? My guest today is Dr. Stacey Bone. He's a companion animal veterinarian and co-developer of PawFriction, a traction-inducing paw pad coating system for special needs pets. We'll be right back after the short break.
Listeners, I'd love to introduce you to PetPlate.com. They deliver freshly cooked human-grade dog food right to your door. I'm talking about dog food that is so high quality that even us humans could, technically, eat it. I've been feeding PetPlate to my pup for the last 2 weeks, and it's perfect for my picky pup, and perfect for me since I'm so busy. So if you want something super healthy, really tasty, and ready to serve, go to petplate.com/spot to get 30% off your first box. Once again, that's petplate.com/spot to get 30% off your first box. petplate.com.
Let's talk pets on PetLifeRadio.com. Welcome back to the Pet Doctor on Pet Life Radio. The doctor is in, and we'll see you now.
Dr. Bone, thank you so much. This is a product I think that a lot of people would never have thought of, but then all of a sudden it's like, oh my goodness, this is something that my pets really need. Number one, how common are mobility issues in pets?
Dr. Cruz, first, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. You know, I would say that kind of the biggest thing in veterinary medicine is better nutrition, better care. Our pets are living much longer. I think mobility issues are becoming a significant problem in our older population of dogs. And as people the numbers of dogs are going down of people owning them, but the longevity of dogs is increasing significantly.
So with our pets living longer, like I said, myself on high heels, and I'm not going to say that I'm getting older and my balance maybe is not as good as it was when I was in my 20s, because I'm just a couple years past that one. Yeah, sure. But I'm seeing so many of my older pets with pet owners saying that, wow, it's hard for them to get around. Here where I live in Southern California, we have a lot of tile, a lot of hardwood floors, and these pets look like they're skating on ice sometimes. It's like they just don't want to move. And as they get older, they don't want to move a lot. What are some of the most common reasons you're seeing why pets are having difficulties with mobility?
Yeah, so it's really kind of like a perfect storm of problems that we see with our senior dogs. So the first is that unfortunately, as all of us, doesn't matter if you hit the gym, doesn't matter if you're a dog and you run 5 miles, it's just the fact of life that muscle mass decreases as you age. Not a huge deal, but then you start to add in our slick floors, and it's like putting glass on glass. Their paw pads smooth and harden as they get older. And then if you add in orthopedic or neurodegenerative diseases, you kind of deal with this perfect storm of things that creates a really significant slipping surface. And one of the reasons why we developed PawFriction was for that reason itself. I practiced out in Las Vegas for my first 2 years, and it seemed like every other person I saw was like, we have tiled floor. I go to work and my dog's in the same place. I come home and they haven't moved. And I started looking at the reasons why that happens. And, outside of just the mobility issues of arthritis and neurologic conditions and things like that, I think a lot of this is confidence. I mean, if you walked across your kitchen floor and every time you did it, you slipped and fell, you get to the point where you were almost terrified to do it. And we see that in dogs as well. I can't tell you the number of stories that we've heard from people that have said, we applied PawFriction and my dog is running around the house. We had to shut up doors because they hadn't been in the bedroom forever and now they're tearing up things. We totally forgot that they did that, just because they've isolated themselves to these 1 or 2 rooms of the house that they feel confident and comfortable walking around in.
And that's very much like me on those high heels. It's that I always want to have a friend with me now. So I have someone that I can somewhat, hey, why don't we just hold arms together, link arms. And then it's like, oh yeah, I have you as my steadying effect there. Now, I know that you keep talking about PawFriction and being dogs, but cats have a lot of the same mobility issues too, don't they? They just sometimes seem to be a little less overt in the way that they show their signs.
And I mean, I think that when I first started practicing veterinary medicine, which wasn't that long ago, but long enough, it was about a decade ago, I feel like we didn't even think arthritis existed in cats. Now we think it's as, if not more common than what we see in dogs. And you have to be really, careful with cats because, most of them won't have mobility issues because what's a cat do, 90% of the day they sleep and they lay around. The biggest indicator, I think, for cats that we ask people is, how are they doing with jumping? Do they get on the surfaces that they used to? And clients will say, I remember we used to always have to shoo Fluffy off the counter because she was always up in our business. Well, she doesn't do that anymore. And then we say to ourselves, okay, why aren't they jumping? And about 99 times out of 100, it's because of mobility problems. So dogs are quite a bit easier, I think, across veterinary medicine, if I reach that far, with their health issues and things like that. Cats just love to hide this stuff from us. So I would say that for the people who are listening, if you've noticed that your older cat is not getting on those high places and getting up on the windowsill, then I think it's worth a conversation with your veterinarian about the possibility of arthritis or orthopedic issues.
I think you're extremely right, where people are a lot less cognizant of the fact that the cats can have arthritis, because I always tell people, what does a cat do when it feels good? Sleep. And what does it do when it doesn't feel good? Sleep. So sometimes trying to see it, I notice with my own old girl Kitty, the first time I really noticed that she was having some issues is that she was always jumping on the bed. And this one evening, she's scratching on the bed skirt. And I'm looking over the side going, yes, come on up. And then watching her body language where it's like, oh, all right, I can do this. And you could see this little intention tremor in her body where she was trying, okay, I can do, And she'd throw herself finally up on top of the bed. It's like, oh, I'm sorry, I haven't been paying attention to what you've been doing. And realized after I took some radiographs of her that, yes, the x-rays showed she was having changes in her little spine. And with some medication, it helped. I'd love to have you, Dr. Bone, address some of the different ways that pet owners and veterinarians have addressed these mobility issues in the past, and have they really worked or not worked?
Yeah, so there are a few products, that are out there in the market, and there are kind of a few environmental things that everybody has done. So you always hear about the people who turn their hardwood floors into throw rugs from one end to the other. And the funny thing always about those stories is they say, we've got throw rugs down everywhere, but my dog goes to the one spot that there's not a throw rug and sits down. And so unfortunately, that can work in some cases if your dog uses them. There are the booties, which we've all seen the YouTube videos of the dogs, kind of doing these hypermetric and hyper extensive, kind of funny walking things because they
goose stepping
stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And so if you can get your dog to wear them, they're good. The problem with those is they need to stay on, about 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, which leads to kind of some other issues like dermatitis and some of these other problems on the feet. Number of kind of other traction inducing products. There are these little stickers that you could put on the paw pads. Unfortunately, those fall off. So we kind of went to square one with our product, which is what is the fundamental thing that goes wrong. And there was this really cool paper that came out, I guess, the latter end of last year that talked about how the paw pads are the traction-inducing surface of the dog's feet, which sounds like it would be totally 100%, but honestly, for the longest time, we thought it was the nails. We thought the nails were what induced traction, but that's actually not correct. It's the paw pads themselves. And we started to look at senior dogs and saw that those paw pads hardened and smooth. This took us to human medicine and looking at what they do for humans who have difficulty placing their feet and sliding and things like that. And when you're doing human rehabilitation, they oftentimes put socks on you that have like traction-inducing surfaces. It's rubber. And we said, well, that's it. There's got to be a way we can recreate that in veterinary medicine. And that led us to the formation of the PawFriction product. So you kind of have those side of things is to give them traction. I think the other side of this is the medical aspect of things. Anti-inflammatories can be invaluable for the treatment of things like arthritis and these conditions that we see most often in older dogs and cats. Supplements are wonderful. Acupuncture is great. Rehabilitation is fantastic. I think anything that you can do to keep your muscle mass healthy is going to improve the mobility of your pet.
So it's really kind of a multimodal approach you're talking about right now where, okay, you need something for those little feet so they can grip and start moving and not sliding, giving them the confidence. Then oftentimes you do need some type of medication to decrease pain and inflammation, because if you hurt, thank you very much. I'm just going to lay here in this little lump and I don't want to move, even if my little feet say, okay, now at least I'm not going to slip. And then acupuncture. So it's really somewhat of a multimodal, complementary laser acupuncture, whatever it takes for your particular pet. And then I know there's also the slings and the harnesses. And, if you have a little pet, you're way ahead of the game. You just kind of pick them up sometimes. But boy, those big pets can really be issues. And as you were saying about using the throw rugs, I know many of my clients are seniors. And one of the admonitions they always have for seniors is really be careful with throw rugs, because more times than not, you catch an edge and then you go down and now you have the broken hip and your pet has its issues too. So yeah, that's really very difficult. You've been teasing us with PawFriction. Okay, what is PawFriction and how did you come up with this idea? Because I've looked at it, I've used it and going, duh, this is fabulous.
So, kind of, I guess the best way I can describe it to most people is it is a paw pad coating system that enables traction in older pets. And, one of the things or one of the reasons why we opted to go this route was one of the kind of fatal flaws of a lot of the products that were out there was nothing was built to counteract that splay-legged movement. And if anybody's had a senior dog, they know exactly what I'm talking about. It's when those back legs shoot to the side and you look at it and you just say to yourself, that has to hurt so bad. So we tried to look in, and this is where things get a little bit boring, but we tried to look at the physics of it. And so this is taking us way back to high school, but in order to induce traction, you really only have two methods. One, you either increase the weight of the object. Well, that is not good for our senior pets.
No, they're already overweight, too many, right?
And the other way is to increase the friction of the surface that they're walking on. And that is kind of how we did it. So PawFriction is a two-component system. It's a medical-grade adhesive in a virgin rubber compound. It's made specifically for us. It's free of used tire rubber and all that. So all non-toxic ingredients that are actually applied directly to the paw pads themselves. And once dried, which takes about 10 to 15 seconds, you will notice immediately the difference between the before and after.
Well, I have to say, we've been using it in my practice and have been enjoying it, and I want to get into this more with Dr. Stacey Bone. Again, he's a companion animal veterinarian and co-developer of PawFriction, a traction-inducing paw pad coating system for special needs pets. We're going to chat about it right when we get back from the short message.
Please have a seat in the waiting room. The doctor will be with you shortly, right after these messages.
We'd like to thank our sponsor for this episode, Rover.com. Rover, the dog people. It's the largest network of 5-star pet sitters and dog walkers in North America. If you have dogs, and like me, you're working during the day and can't get home to walk your fur babies, you can just use the Rover app on your Android or iPhone and find a 5-star dog walker. Book them, favorite them, and even pay them all through the app. And I know if I'm going away for the weekend or even taking a 5-day cruise, I can use the same Rover app to book a pet sitter. By using Rover, my dog walker or pet sitter is trusted, background checked, and is backed by Rover's premium insurance and 24/7 support. And if my dog and I want to meet my pet sitter or dog walker beforehand, we can do that too with a free meet and greet. I personally like that I can get pictures of my dog, a map of her walk, and updates right on the app. It's so cool. We have a special offer for Pet Life Radio listeners, too. Get $25 off your first booking by going to rover.com/Pet Life Radio. Pet Life Radio is all one word, and use the promo code Pet Life Radio. So once again, go to rover.com/Pet Life Radio. Pet Life Radio is all one word, and use promo code Pet Life Radio. 3 words for the code and get $25 off your first booking. It's a pawsome deal.
Let's talk pets
Let's talk pets
on Pet Life Radio.
Pet Life Radio.
PetLifeRadio.com.
Welcome back to the Pet Doctor on Pet Life Radio. The doctor is in, and we'll see you now.
So, Dr. Bone, I have a feeling that your physics teacher from high school is very impressed that you actually were paying attention and that you've been able to use this, because I remember doing physics going, am I ever going to use this stuff that I learned? And yes, you have been able to use it. So you're talking about using it in dogs, and honestly, that's where I've been using it. But can you use this in cats also? Because sometimes they seem to need a little bit of traction assistance.
Yeah, so the short answer is yes, you can use it in cats. The biggest issue, and I'll be honest, with anything that you apply to a dog's paw pads, and we looked at this when we developed the product, is unfortunately, there's a variation in the time that lasts on the dog's feet. In cats, there's a significant anatomical difference between cats and dogs with regards to the anatomy of their paw pads. So yes, you can use it in cats. The caveat to that is, unfortunately, the lasting time in cats is much, much shorter. But we've used it in a couple of cats with cerebellar issues that have intention tremors and things of that nature. One cat that was diagnosed with degenerative myelopathy, and when it was on, it worked really well. But unfortunately, it wore off pretty quickly. So yes, it works, but the lasting time is much shorter.
I think you're exactly right. With cats, whenever you put, many times they'll have skin lesions and owners want to put some type of a lotion or potion or unction on them. And it's like, really, as soon as you put something on a cat, the first thing I want to do is lick that thing off. So I can imagine it's the same thing. And then sometimes it seems as though kitties really don't like having their paws played with a lot. So the application, kind of run us through so people can visualize how you put this on, what you need to do to prep the paws to apply PawFriction.
So the very first thing that we always tell people is we design the product to be done at home. However, if your dog is one of those dogs that really doesn't like its feet being touched, or you have difficulty doing things to them, you may need to have your veterinarian apply it for you, or even your groomer apply it for you. So rough rule of thumb is if you can trim your dog's nails at home, you can apply PawFriction. So there's actually 2 different application methods. The first one is a standing method. And the best way I can describe it is you take the foot backwards, kind of like you're shoeing a horse. You apply the glue with a little pipette that we have, a little light layer on each individual paw print, and then you actually have them stand down in the tray that comes with the product that's full of the rubber granules. You let them stand there for about 10 to 15 seconds, lift the foot up, kind of shake off the rubber, make sure it's dry, put it down, and then repeat on all the other affected paws. And the cool thing about it is that if you're just having hind limb issues, you can just apply it to the back legs. If you're dealing with a tripod, a three-legged dog, you can just apply it to the one leg that needs that extra traction. The other method for dogs that can't stand for long periods of time is actually lay them on their side and kind of turn the paw like it's facing towards the ceiling, apply the adhesive, and then sprinkle the rubber on top of it. Takes a little bit longer to dry that way, but they're also not standing for long periods of time.
Well, I've done both ways, and it really is very straightforward. And I love the fact that, it's not just the senior pet, as you've mentioned before. Sometimes it's a pet with having disc disease or having neurological issues, or they're recovering from surgery. They've had some type of orthopedic procedure, and the surgeon says, do not let this pet slip, or this, all the hours and time and money that we spent trying to repair this fracture is just going to go down the tube. So rehabilitation, physical therapy, there's so many different reasons why a pet can really benefit from this. In the short amount of time that we have left, can you tell us maybe a short story of how you've heard of the PawFriction has made a difference and maybe kept a pet from being euthanized, something that will touch us?
Yeah, so I actually will tell you about the very first time that we ever did it. So I had a technician that I worked with who had a Bernese Mountain Dog, and anybody out there who's had them knows that unfortunately they're a breed of dog that's overrepresented with a disease called degenerative myelopathy, which is, plain and simple, kind of a nervous system dysfunction that progressively leads to the inability to use the back leg. And basically what we did was we actually moved up the production of the product so that we could place it on her dog. And he was kind of to the point where he really had difficulty getting up. He was like right at that stage where he needed that extra traction. So he would actually pull himself to a rug or to the carpet in the house so he could get that traction. And there's this awesome video on our website if anybody wants to actually see the before and after, but we applied it to him and put him in the middle of the veterinary clinic floor, which is, for the unknown reason, veterinary clinics have the slickest floors known to man. A lot of times they have really bad mobility issues in the veterinary clinic, and we stuck him in the middle of the floor. And man, he not only hopped up immediately, but he started to prance. He was a show dog, and she was crying because she was like, he hasn't done this in forever. But you could instantly see that confidence that had come back in his gait and in his demeanor. You could just see it in his eyes, like, holy cow, this is amazing. And he actually, degenerative myelopathy is typically, if you're lucky, a 6 to 8 month disease progression. He did almost 2 years. And what was interesting about it is that shortly thereafter, we took the product to the neurology department at the University of Missouri Veterinary School, and one of the neurologists looked at me and said, this could fundamentally change the way that we deal with neurodegenerative diseases, because our biggest issue is muscle loss and mobility. And I think in veterinary medicine as a whole, we're really trying to stop being a reactive industry. We're really trying to be a much more proactive industry. And I think with any of these dogs, weight loss and keeping them active is so, so, so important for their quality of life.
Dr. Bone, fabulous, and I know we could talk about this a lot more. But as we wrap this up, where can people find PawFriction?
So we're in a number of veterinary clinics now. We're getting there slowly but surely, and we actually just launched an agreement with a company called VetSource, which a lot of veterinary clinics have as an online pharmacy through their own clinic. We are also available on Amazon, and we're available through our website, which is PawFriction.com. So slowly but surely, we're getting out there. We've only been on the market for about 2 and a bit years, so we're getting there.
Well, this is wonderful. I've been using it in my practice, I've said, really seen a lot of changes. And it's wonderful that somebody who's listening, even if their veterinarian doesn't carry it, they can go online, find PawFriction, apply it themselves, or take it to their vet or to their groomer. So Dr. Stacey Bone, thank you so much for being with us today. I think this is a product that is that better mousetrap. You've come up with something that the industry and pets have really needed. Thank you so much for listening. This is Dr. Bernadine Cruz on The Pet Doctor. Please tune in again next week. We'll give you more information on how to make you the best possible pet owner. Take care.
Pets can be a wonderful addition to your life because they're a member of the family. Keeping them healthy and happy is important. Pet Life Radio presents The Pet Doctor with veterinary media consultant and veterinarian Dr. Bernadine Cruz. Whether you have a dog, cat, reptile, or rabbit, you'll find answers for your pets straight from the vets. The Pet Doctor, on demand every week, only on PetLifeRadio.com.
Hey, cat people. Litter box smells always on your mind? Think about your cat, not the box, with World's Best Cat Litter, the litter that delivers big odor control in a tiny package. World's Best Cat Litter harnesses the concentrated power of corn to trap odors deep inside the litter. Ready to knock out smells and use less litter? Find World's Best Cat Litter at Target, Walmart, and in your local grocery and pet stores.